Australian tracks are known for being tough and punishing, especially thanks to last round's venue, Bathurst. So, on the surface, the wide open spaces of Phillip Island don't initially appear to be as big of a worry. But anyone who has watched the Autobahn series knows this circuit has put on some of the wildest races in the history of the league. Will our drivers be able to navigate here safely? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 8 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth today is Adam Lindgren and Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. There are many qualities about this track that make it unique in today's world of racing. Why don't we head down to our track guide to get a closer look and find out why. All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Phillip Island. You'll be getting a ton of speed down the front stretch, but the first corner isn't ideal for passing. Doohan is a fast sweeper with no braking, and for the most part will probably be single file. The first braking zone is honestly into the southern loop, where passes are possible but tricky. This is a long left-hander that's off-camber, includes a few elevation changes among its two apexes. It's easy to botch. Ideally, you'll want to focus on getting the exit right the most, because it leads towards a very popular corner for overtaking. Stoner is of course easily flat out, so hug the left side and set yourself up for Honda. This hairpin will see the most action, but it's surprisingly easy to send it in too deep. However, if someone pulls an over-under, they'll find themselves on the wrong side of the track up towards Siberia. Because of that, you won't usually see passes happen into this uphill bend. It's probably wise to square off this exit because the elevation will continue to rise here on the back half of the course. You won't be lifting on your way through the S's, and you'll start to get a pretty good head of steam. But at the end of this is Lukey Heights, where you're essentially braking and turning on your way into it. This is one of the most difficult corners of the track, tending to leave you fighting with understeer. Plus, it blends directly into the braking for MG. The steep downhill plunge makes it embarrassingly easy to come in too hot. Then it switches back into the penultimate corner, where you've got to be patient with the throttle. From there, you now fly through Swan. It's not quite flat out, but it'll be very important to carry your momentum as you return to the front stretch. Otherwise, you'll find yourself in a game of chicken with your competitors on the way down to Doohan. But hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Phillip Island. And see, some of these corners really are going to be throwing drivers for a loop. And Adam, if I'm honest, I think this is one of the hardest tracks on iRacing to race on.
I definitely agree with you, Joe. The Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit on the surface may not seem like much, but it is a deceptively difficult track, like you said. It's 2.762 miles or 4.445 kilometers of undulating 12 turns are often very dirty due to its island locale, and thus lack grip. Add to that high winds at a relatively narrow track surface, as well as grass runoff that falls away from the track everywhere you go, and this Australian course has become one infamous track in racing, both in the sim and out of it. You may think the HPDs would have an easy time of it today, but most of the corners are low to medium speed, making them tight on entry and loose on exit by nature. They'll still have pace over the GT3s and GTEs, but it won't be as large as we've seen in other races. The GTEs are best suited to the course with their high downforce and decent mechanical grip, whereas the GT3s will feel like they're pushing off the track most of the day, having to be gentle on the right foot to get the car pointed to the apexes. Expect multi-class to be fairly civil today, with the only real stressors being Honda, Siberia, and Lukey Heights, but with that said, this is a small track for so many classes, Joe.
Yeah, and I think that's where the chaos tends to come in this series, especially with a few other things that we'll talk about as time goes by. But first, let's talk about the championship and where things sit with that, starting with the prototypes. Miguel Vigo and Jason Girard separated by 1 point, but that is going to probably change today because, well, it's both a small field and we do not see Vigo out on the track unless he suddenly shows up very, very late. It's going to be the championship lead gone for him. Billy Smith, who's been looking quick today, could challenge Jason Girard. We'll have to wait and see, with Wolf and Lewis tied for fourth down there, both 1 point behind Billy Smith. So overall, and we're going to see this as a theme through all the classes, this is just incredibly tight for as far into the season as we are, Adam.
Yeah, and it's the same thing in the GTEs as well. We got a tie for first between Bradley Haley and Ryan Huff, both with 89 points. These two guys are both here today. Bradley on pole, and Ryan's going to start off in fifth. So Ryan's going to have a lot of work to do to catch up to the fast Bradley Haley. Mike Young is only 6 points back. 7 is back as Jason DeVries, and Kevin Binkley's 8 points back. So it's quite close at the top. It's anybody's game at this point in the season. All right, Nick, you got the GTDs for us?
I do indeed, and you see just how tight it is over in those two categories. It doesn't get any better here in the GTDs. Kevin Santana holds a 1-point lead over Sheldon Rosenbaum. But thankfully, they've got, well, it's a 2-point buffer back to third with Eric Antilli, Paul Lindsay, and Ryan Wash. Ryan Wash out of it just a little bit, but Paul Lindsay still very much in it. Only 9 points back there in that Lap Rats racing team. Speaking of teams, Joe, I believe you've got those points.
Absolutely. Up at the top, Automobile No Disassembly still up ahead. This is just about the only championship that sees the lead with a significant margin, but then it gets tight from behind there, from 30 to 56 points back. So about 26 points between SRN Gray and SRN Orange. But then look at this, 3 points from third to fourth place. And then you get down to fifth with Autobahn West, and it's a little bit of a jump once again. So if anything, it's in the middle of the top of the field that has the battle going on for the team standings. They run this team championship a little bit uniquely as well if you're new to this series, wherein you have a driver in each of the classes on your team instead of racing within the same class. So that's why we're seeing such unusual difference between that as well as the other championships. Now, in case we have people who have not tuned in for the first time, Adam, do you want to run down our race details for us?
Absolutely. This is going to be a 60-minute race, and they're going to have 3 classes here for round 8 of the Autobahn series. We got the prototypes with the HPD, the GTLMs, which are going to have the Porsche, Ford, Ferrari, and BMW, and the GTDs, where we have the Mercedes and the Audi. They've got an open setup today, but only 67% fuel, so they are going to have to take a pit stop. 24 incidents is going to be the cap, and it is a hard cap. That means you will get pulled off the racetrack if you hit that incident cap, and you've got no spare car to take, so these guys are going to have to be very careful with their damage.
Yeah, absolutely will. And right now we've got qualifying going on for the fastest of the classes, the overall pole that they are competing for. Interesting to note, though, that the weather conditions are actually pretty cool here today, especially considering it's such a clear sky, 74 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. So should be somewhat grippy, though, as was mentioned by Adam, it's quite windy out here with it being out to the open ocean without much of a barrier. One thing that I did notice, though, Nick, is you were talking about Ryan Wash being a little farther down in the points. Well, he's not farther down in terms of pace today. He snatched the pole at the very end of the GTD qualifying. It's looking like he's sitting pretty.
He is indeed. This might be a fantastic race for him to come alive and really get his spotlight opportunity this season. He's certainly looking quick, a tenth faster than Kevin Santana there, back in second place. The one big thing I've noticed about his time being on top of the GT3s, he's only about 2 seconds off of the slowest GTE time. Those times between those two classes are a lot closer than I expected.
Yeah, especially considering they nerfed the GTD class a bit recently. Took some power away from the cars to try and separate them a little bit more and also make them closer to what they run in IMSA in terms of power difference between those two classes. Right now we're watching our provisional pole sitter, Jason Gerard. He was quick in the warm-up here, Adam. Billy Smith, though, for a while was up on top, and it looks like he's actually coming across the line now.
Yeah, Billy Smith and Jason Gerard have been trading blows, and there we go again. Billy Smith to the top of the charts, only about a hundredth and a half away from Jason Gerard. So these two guys are just trading back and forth with these quick times. And it's not because the track's cooling down or anything. It might be that it's rubbering in a little bit, but these guys are going quick. There goes Jason Gerard to the top again. So if these guys keep switching back and forth, it's going to all depend on who crosses the line at the last minute of this qualifying.
The craziest thing, too, is that they're pulling away from everybody else. Poor Stephen McGarvey's watching this happen, and he's got 7/10 to make up just to get to Smith, 8/10 to get to Jason Gerard, the current pole sitter. We watch McGarvey come around Swan now, and let's see if he can close this or maybe even miraculously get up to the front row. That'd be a tough ask, I'd say. He crosses the line, and it looks like that was an outlap for him, as that one was a little bit slow.
I'm going to keep crossing the line. He's all the way up in 4th right now, which is a good qualifying for him. But with such a small field, he's going to be in for a decent points day today. Ross Booth crossing the line. Let's see whether he can improve his time. He does by about half a second. So Ross Booth up to 3rd place. Billy Smith is about to cross the line as well. Can he improve his time? And that is yes, he can, but he's not going to be able to catch Jason Gerard off by 3/1000ths of a second.
Wow. It is quite a fight for that top spot here, as it's going to be a little bit difficult maybe to get some passes in. So it could be important unless traffic goes your way. And speaking of that traffic, Nick, I feel like that's one of the qualities here that is sort of overlooked a lot in multi-class racing that causes so many problems. And that's the fact that racing line switches back and cross and forth, if I can get the words out, back and forth across the track multiple times over the course of a lap.
Yeah, and that's kind of the issue here that makes it so difficult at Phillip Island. It's so difficult to pass within your own class. These drivers, I don't know how they're going to manage to pass each other, especially when those HPDs come around to the back of the GT3s to start things off. You have good passing corners like Honda Corner in Siberia, but the problem with those two corners is that they switch back, just like you said. So the GT3s are really going to have to either let off, or the HPDs are going to have to be aggressive in a lot of different areas of the track.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention, Joe, is that this track is really short, so they've shortened the gap between the classes for the start to only 3 seconds. But still, those HPDs are going to be on the back of the GTDs very quickly after we drop the green flag, and that's going to affect their battles the entire day.
Significant development there that we saw Billy Smith into the pits. I don't think he can get out and get the tires warmed up quick enough to put a flyer in. So is he giving way to Jason Gerard, who's also in pit lane right now? Top two seem to be content with where they are. Ross Booth, who's got about half a second to make up to get to Smith, doesn't look like he's really got enough to try and close that in with only 2 minutes left on the clock.
And Joe, Billy Smith took a splash of fuel and he's back out. So he's going to try for one more lap around here. It's going to be tight for him to do it, but I think he's going to be able to get at least one more lap in.
I have not seen this strategy in qualifying yet from drivers. This is fascinating. Ever since these new tires have been put on the cars, and I just saw him wobble the car around a little bit, trying to get some heat into the tires after now that he's cooled them down on pit lane even. So this could be a clever move from the 901.
We're saying Luke Carbonneau across line. He cannot improve his time. A lot of these drivers trying to improve their times. Ross Booth in the 4th position. He does not go faster. He's off by 6/1000ths of a second. So these times are not quicker right now. Billy Smith looking for those 3/1000ths of a second to get over Jason Gerard, who has decided to call it for the day. Looks like Billy Smith is going to get only one more lap. So this is going to have to be his flyer.
That would make it count as we ride on board with Billy. McGarvey overtook Booth as well for 3rd. So Ross gets bumped down to the outside of row 2. Again, he's still got time to complete this next one, but that will be his final lap because the checkered flag will probably be out from there. There's Billy Smith starting his. Why don't we ride on board to see if he can get this pull away? Such small margins that he has to make up. So he is going to be pushing. This will be fascinating to watch. In fact,
sideways.
Not enough grip in the tires there.
Pushed a little too hard, it looks like.
Well, that's going to settle that battle right away then. 30 seconds left on the clock. I think Luke Carbonneau is going to come across and start one final run. You see the TMC Racing Carbon driver just crossed the line. That lap unfortunately did not count for him, so he must have had an off track somewhere. Ross Booth abandons his lap, and the only other one out running is David Sockrider, it seems.
Yeah, so Carter Kundinger, Luke Carbonneau, and David Sockrider are all going for their final laps now.
Sockrider is going to be the first to take the checkered flag, and he's very wobbly around the Lukey Heights sweeper left-hand crest that can prove incredibly difficult no matter what car you drive. He starts to accelerate away. That car looks a little slow, and yes, indeed, I figured he was going to head in after that mistake. Just not happy with how it was going. Kevin O'Keefe also off track. He's not happy with how things are going. What about Luke Carbonneau? Second to last driver in the qualifying. Here's a good chance to try and climb farther upwards.
Luke, he's coming down through the really tough turn 10. He's way off apex. That's going to lose him a lot of time. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls it straight into the pits from this. Yeah, he's a little bit off pace. Looks like he's going to try and finish the lap though.
Yeah, well, 19.8 is his quickest. Let's see if this does anything for him as he comes to the line. It's going to be tight. And oh, yes, he does it. A 19.5, but it doesn't move him upwards. And Carter Kundinger decides that he doesn't need to complete his lap, as that's where he's going to stay. So that means our qualifying is now over. Let's go through our starting order for round 8, starting with the prototypes. Jason Gerard, 3 1,000ths quicker than Billy Smith in this qualifying. That front row is going to be incredible to watch if they can hold that pace over the course of the entire race. Stephen McGarvey will be starting in 3rd with Ross Booth next to him in P4. Kevin O'Keefe, actually a pretty decent qualifying for him, top 5. And the inside of row 3, Carter Kundinger to his outside in 6th. And you've got Luke Carbonneau starting 7th, and David Sockrider will start at P8th. Adam?
Bradley Haley's taking pole for the GTLM class with Jason DeVries alongside him in 2nd place. Daniel Grauty's going to start off in 3rd with Scott McGarvey in 4th. Ryan Huff starting off in 5th position. It's going to be a hard fight for him to try and take the fight to Bradley Haley for that points championship lead. Leif Peterson starting off in 6th with Mark Wilson in 7th. Vance Bow in 8th position, and Robert Kanchan did not qualify. He's going to start in 9th.
Ryan Wash looking for a good run tonight, just like he had at Coda and Bathurst earlier this year. He's going to be starting on the pole in the GTD class right in front of Kevin Santana, Sheldon Rosenbaum, Paul Lindsay, and Eric Intilli in P5. Mike Major is going to be alongside 35 of Intilli in row number 3. Gary Mueller, Tim McLeish are going to be behind him. Mark Kedrowski and Sean Reese in the 7. Shane Hunter, Sheldon Woloshin, and Chris Sherburne are going to round out the 30-car field in the overall grid today.
See if we get Kanchan out there. I'm not sure if he might be serving a penalty. I'll have to double check to see if maybe we missed that. And indeed, he does line up and on the grid, so he's not starting from pit lane. So maybe just feels a little bit more comfortable starting from the back of his fields. We got some time during the pace lap, so I guess mull it over while you can. Adam, we'll start with you on today's picks. Who's our winners?
Well, I think that we're definitely going to have... I'm guessing that Bradley Haley's for sure going to win the GTLM. I would put the win for GTD in the hands of Kevin Santana, and then I'm just going to guess on Billy Smith for the win of the HPDs.
Adam, I agree with you in terms of the GTLM class. I think Bradley Haley has just looked unstoppable. 7/8 faster than the rest of the field. Over in the GT3s, I'll go a little bit different. I think Kevin Santana, after his win at Bathurst, I think he's going to win another Australian track here. And over in the HPDs, Billy Smith, I'm going to go with him. He was looking awfully fast, and he's only 2 1,000ths off the pole time.
All right, so interesting choices out here as the Porsche pace car now takes off and we work our way around the track. Now, one thing that you need to keep an eye on once we get to pit stops, as we will have one scheduled stop for fuel this race, is you'll see the pit exit here on the front stretch. They do have one that cars can take directly out, but they are not allowed in this series. The stewards have told them they will be penalized if they use that pit exit. They need to flow all the way out into Dewan, where you see the prototypes now exiting out of currently. So that'll keep them out of the way and prevent some unnecessary incidents on the front stretch, since it'll just be getting up to speed as they come out of the pits. Going into the pits, though, I kind of worry about, Nick. I've seen a number of cases where drivers maybe didn't quite take it right.
It's certainly a tight entrance. The strip of asphalt that is here at this track. A lot of motorcycles run races at this track, and these cars are certainly a bit wider than motorcycles, and that's going to show on pit entry. I'm sure one of the 30 drivers at least will maybe put a tire in the grass trying to get into the pits today.
Absolutely. Could cause a little bit of a slip up. So we now come around Honda, one of the popular passing spots. We were talking about this earlier, the quick switchback into Siberia. I also find interesting, Adam, how much banking there are on some corners, especially like here, what we have with Siberia.
Yeah, a couple of these corners are very well banked, and it makes it deceptive. You think that you can dive into every corner with that kind of aggression and that kind of speed, but then you have a couple of corners, especially Lukey Heights, that really does fall away from you, so it really makes the car want to get super light over the crest, and so this track really does have it all.
You see the GTD class now coming up towards the higher portion of the circuit, up towards Hayshed. Already, our prototypes are now coming down the plunge into MG. Very tight hairpin that doesn't offer up as much passing as one would expect, especially, mostly, if anything, because of that lead up. So the pace car getting ready to peel in. Billy Smith backing down a little bit here. He's got to get up next to Jason Girard soon. Giving a little bit space. Now they're all lined up as you see them head around Swan. Porsche pace car is in. Control has been given to Jason Girard. He waits patiently. They're not allowed to go until this front stretch. And he goes immediately. Jason Girard takes the green flag here for round 8 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Going to get single file between himself and Billy Smith, but third place rather, under challenge. McGarvey ahead of Ross Booth. He'll be able to take that away. Very clean start in the prototypes. Let's head back to the GTLMs.
Bradley Haley did the exact same thing and took the start immediately, followed by Jason DeVries, Daniel Gralty, and then we have it side by side. It was side by side for 4th position between Scott McGarvey and Ryan Huff, but they're now strung out the entire GTLM field single file.
It was a big jump for Ryan Wash back in the GTD field, headed down to Dewan. It's going to be side by side back for 3rd place. It looks like Paul Lindsay might be able to come out on top of that battle. No, he's actually going to be stuck behind Sheldon Rosenbaum.
So no dramas thus far, except for poor Luke Carbonneau, who went off for a little bit. Don't need a replay, as he had his wheels into the kitty litter in the southern loop and then returned without drama. We watch the GTDs continue to fight down. Oh, and way wide for Santana. That's going to give up 2nd place. Will it give up 3rd? A little bit of a blink from Rosenbaum, who sneaks into that P2. Oh, and that's actually going to throw off Paul Lindsay.
Lindsay's going to slip wide, trying to get around Santana. That's going to hurt him. It's so tight through there, Joe. You mentioned that, and he's going to fall back so many positions here he's lost.
That was a strange chain reaction at the top of the field here in the GTDs. The mistake of Santana almost looked like it put Lindsay off his rhythm, and a big slip up into Siberia proved costly. Let's head back to Daniel Gralty in the GTLMs, because he's got a monster run on Jason DeVries. And this looks like he might have this one done as they come down into Dewan. He's got the inside, and indeed, Jason is going to let him go.
Yeah, this is the right move for the right time. Jason DeVries letting him go. If you try and go around the outside of that, you usually end up running into that pillbox that's out there, and that ends up ruining your day for sure. So Jason DeVries wanting to live to fight for the rest of this 60-minute race. Let's Daniel Gralty go.
What about it with Huff behind him? I can also report that poor Luke Carbonneau has had a DNF already, unfortunately.
And Mike Major and Paul Lindsay are both off track. Sean Reese as well.
Yes, Sean Reese has had issues back here. I think this might have been an issue getting back on track. I saw Lindsay go off in Dewan.
Yeah, this was a pass in Dewan. A pass that went wrong.
3 cars off. Looks like initially it was Kudrowski and Reese getting together, and then poor Lindsay maybe got a little bit thrown off by it. Looking for the 944 here.
Kind of just, I don't know if he had tunnel vision following them in there or what, but yeah, they all slid off. None of them actually made contact, actually. Well, I think Kudrowski and Reese might have banged off the sides of each other a little bit.
Yeah, they did indeed. He's going to have a touch with him into the first corner. And when we come back, Jason Girard is now down in 4th, and I'm not sure what caused this.
Got loose going through. He got loose going through Dewan, Joe. It was a single car moment, and he managed to save it, so he's now just slotted back into that 3rd position.
So we come back live. He's already recovered from 4th to 3rd. He's disposed of Booth. He's got about, let's see, I'm trying to get my time and scoring to update to see how far behind Smith is, but I'm not getting numbers. Looks like maybe about 5 seconds or so here.
I'd say about 3.5 behind Billy Smith at this point.
In front of him there, you saw Stephen McGarvey lock up as well. It's going to allow Gerard to close in on him.
So we're going to get an opportunity down the front stretch. If he gets a good enough exit, there could be something in it as we watch off the rear wing of Stephen. And almost looked like he lifted there as Gerard easily goes by, unless there's a big difference in downforce between those two cars.
Yeah, I think that's a good opportunity. I mean, if he's worried that Gerard is going to try and take it around the outside, you don't want to see... I mean, you don't want to see what happened in the GTDs happen to you in the HPDs, because that really does end your race, especially with how fast these speeds are in these HPDs. Might as well just let Gerard by and try and let him charge up to Billy Smith until you're with him.
This is really our best battles currently in the entire race, is this one for second place, which is becoming for third soon, it looks like, as McGarvey starts to lose touch with Gerard. Ross Booth, Kevin O'Keefe right behind him, working their way through Hayshed and up to Lukey Heights.
And Kevin O'Keefe with a pretty decent run so far. He's in that 5th position, just running in behind these guys. This is the best chance he's had to battle all season, so I'm expecting him to be ready for the fight.
And a little bit of a wiggle coming off of the penultimate turn for the 03 of Ross Booth. O'Keefe's going to have the slipstream. They start to pick up speed down this very fast Gardner Straight, 175 miles an hour, before they finally have to work their way through the fast right hand of Buin. And he wasn't quite there. O'Keefe backs out of it, so they'll stay in position. Booth in 4th, O'Keefe in P5.
I think O'Keefe has a lot more downforce than Booth ahead of him. He was very slow on the straights, but he really gained significantly in the corners. But that's going to come back to bite him, especially when they go through the first couple of corners and especially down that back straight. He's going to be very fast through these inner sectors, but can he maintain those positions if he takes them through the corners?
I'm taking a look through the rest of the field to see if there is any other battles close, and really the only thing we've got is P7 in the GTDs between Sherburne and Rouse. But we got to stay with our leaders here, because it looks like they're into traffic, Nick.
Yeah, they are in traffic, the leaders. Billy Smith and the rest of them, they're trying to get around. That's Sheldon Voloshin there, the GTD. There they all go around him. You can see just how difficult this is for him. Voloshin's got to kind of get off the gas to help them. That's going to allow a big opportunity, though, for Kevin O'Keefe. He's going to have a big run on Ross Booth on the front stretch, it looks like.
Last time he fell away on the Gardner Straight, and once again, lacking top end speed. The 629 just drops like a rock. That did not work out well for him. What is up next for our HPDs? Well, a lot of GTDs. In fact, now Smith is into the thick of things. In fact, just went by that 7th place battle between Kudrowski and Lindsay, who nearly come together.
Yeah, this is the big train that's going on right now between all of these guys. And you've got a really massive train of HPDs just tucked in behind these GTDs. Chris Sherburne and Eric and Tilly, who are battling for 9th position right now.
Here's Gerard giving chase, 3.3 seconds. That's your gap currently. And I think we've had a problem for Jerry Mueller. Yeah, there's the tire tracks. You can see to the outside of the corner. The 195 in Lukey Heights seems to have sent himself off to the beat.
Looks like this was all by himself, and it was indeed. He was able to keep it out of the tire barrier.
Wow, those rears just absolutely gave way.
Yeah, Adam mentioned right at the beginning of the show the understeer that these GTDs are going to be dealing with, and you know, sometimes you just try to get on the gas a little too hard.
We jump up to the battle for 3rd between McGarvey and Booth now. O'Keefe still behind them, but struggling his way up, and a spin for McGarvey is going to send him around. Oh my goodness, track conditions today seem to be extra slippery.
Yeah, I mean, he just got into the gas a little bit too early coming through that corner, and that ended up unseating those rear tires. And once you do that here in iRacing, it's really hard to recover. You can see him just gliding the car over the hill, and there goes Ross Booth right by, and then Kevin O'Keefe follows through as well.
Well, that threw away what could have been a very good finish for McGarvey, who's now fallen to last on his field. We've lost Luke Carbonneau. He is the first one to DNF, and he is from that prototype class. Now, Mike Major has been taking repairs. I'm not sure what those are for, but we must have had something happen that we missed. Haven't give love to the GTLMs in a while. It sounds like we've got a little bit of a fight there.
Yeah, it was between Ryan Huff and Leif Peterson with Vance Bow not far back. Leif has been catching up to Ryan over the last couple of laps and really putting pressure on him. And now take a look at that. The pressure's a little bit too much. Ryan Huff getting a little bit loose of the corner. He's going to have to give the inside to Leif Peterson. Leif with the extra banking around this corner should be able to take it away from Ryan. Ryan challenging hard on the outside. He's going to hold it. Leif Peterson having to back off. Ryan Huff currently has the position. He's going to have it coming through the twisting corners here up towards Loogie Heights.
Vance Bow is the one you see in the Ferrari, the black and green just behind them, giving watch on the two Porsches. They come over the crest and down the hill into MG. Like I said, nobody really able to make an attempt into here. Those look like Peterson and Huff both covering off the inside into that turn. The front stretch is where it is at for many of these.
The whole half a second that he had caught up to Haley right there just through that set of corners.
And we're talking about the difficulties in traffic here, and I feel like David Sockrider just experienced that. He went off at the southern loop trying to pass a slower vehicle, and I think just the lack of grip that we're seeing kind of bit him in a different way from what we had before. There it is.
Yeah, just couldn't hold it there.
Just grazed the tires. Eventually does get it going once again.
And Joe, Kevin O'Keefe has gotten into Daniel Gralti and Bradley Haley as they're going through the first corner right now. They were actually made contact between all three of those cars on the front stretch.
Take a look at the replay.
It was right before this. It was just exiting the final corner. Kevin O'Keefe just misjudged it just a little bit, and Daniel Gralti and Bradley Haley both made contact with it.
It was close again down at Aduin as well. Here we're going to watch it one more time.
We'll see it here. Kevin getting really good speed. He's going to pass Gralti on the inside and then try and pass Haley on the outside, and then thinking Haley's going to switch back, and then they both make contact, and it got very close between the two of them, but Haley and Gralti still inseparable.
Yeah, it's still very close between the two. Gralti has had a couple of good looks, but a couple of HPDs getting by them has stopped that momentum for him.
Let's also not count out Jason DeVries, who's still back there within about a second. Some GTD traffic in the form of Christopher Sherburne is going to stay out of the way through MG. That actually costs a bit of time for Daniel Gralti, who finds himself gapped now by Bradley Haley. And that could be a very important move since Haley now comes onto the front stretch, and he is well outside of that slipstream, at least the majority of it for Daniel Gralti.
They're trying to catch somebody. Catching somebody in MG like that really ruins your exit because you want to just cut straight to the left side of the track on the exit of MG, and you're unable to do that when you have a car to your inside, or rather to your outside around MG, so that ends up losing you all your speed as you get onto the front straight. So Gralti's now going to have to recover those 0.6 seconds with no traffic ahead.
With that traffic behind, I'm checking to see, and yeah, there's no HPDs for a long time. So this is going to have to be on raw pace for the number 47. You watch them head towards Siberia. DeVries loving this. Thought maybe he'd thrown things away, I'm sure, at the start of this race. Now suddenly he's closing in and closing in. He didn't feel confident coming in here. He expressed some displeasure with his setup that he hadn't quite nailed it.
Yeah, but now he's right there in the mix of it. He's right up there within a second of these guys up ahead. So if they can just get held up one more time, he's going to be within drafting distance of these two guys up ahead and really going to have an opportunity to battle.
They've separated here. I want to take another peek back at 6th in the GTDs because Lindsay continues to get very close to Kudrowski. And
Joe, you might want to take a look at the lead in the GTDs right now because Sheldon Rosenbaum has closed the gap to Ryan Wash just about all the way. He is there.
Oh boy, he did. It's less than half a second currently between them. So he could have something for him if he's brave. Watch them come down into MG themselves. Sherburne and Wash are actually relatively close in the points right now as well. Rosenbaum is the higher of the two. Wash just about 30 points so or back, but has clearly shown some pace like we said. The question is, can he hold that pace for the entirety of the race? Oh, and I can tell you that Lindsay just finally got by Kudrowski. Oh, they just made contact.
Major contact. Kudrowski is going.
Yep, that was heading up into Lukey Heights, and Kudrowski, who got overtaken, just misjudged it, got into the back of Lindsay. They're going to be able to get away with it, and Tilly gains a spot from that as well. See the move up through Hayshed. Not often you see that work, but a good exit is what did it. And, I think that shallow entry, he just slowed up earlier because he wasn't quite sure where to brake there.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kudrowski just thought he was clear. Didn't think he was. He probably didn't think Lindsay was going to be that slow there.
Thankfully, everybody's able to keep going. Just don't know how much damage they've got. Kudrowski certainly seems to have a bit on the nose. Let's take a look at P1 and the GTLMs because Peralty has gotten within 0.2 of a second now. They do have some lap traffic. This is Stephen McGarvey, 6th in the prototypes. Catches them actually at a pretty decent spot. Keeping the inside covered off. Bradley Haley making sure that Peralty doesn't have an opportunity. It's going to slow him up a little bit, but not enough to offer the 47 a chance to get sneaky here.
Peralty missed the apex there through the first hairpin there, and that's really unfortunate because he had an opportunity to get a really good run towards Haley into the second one. But here they come up towards Lukey Heights. This is where Peralty has been better than Haley in the last couple of laps. Let's see whether he can do it again. See Haley getting a little bit offline there, a little bit far from the apex. That means you're using up more of the track, and it slows you down just a little bit. Peralty also good through MG, so Bradley Haley looks like he's starting to struggle a little bit with that Ford. Now they've got lap traffic ahead, as looks like one of the GTDs into the pits. That is Eric Antilli.
Interesting that Antilli is pitting because he was the one in that incident that didn't make contact.
Well, it looks like Peralty's going to have an opportunity here.
Trying to get side by side up into Doohan, but he doesn't have the overlap. He could still try and surprise him into the southern loop, but he's covered off. Bradley Haley picks the inside line into this long left-hander. That's Kudrowski up in front of them. Kudrowski could play a role in this. He's going to pull over, make them go around the outside of Stoner, but the inside into Honda corner. And I almost think this takes away the opportunity for Peralty. He could have maybe gotten aggressive if the car was not there to their outside.
Yeah, he might have had an opportunity, but it was pretty much even between the two of them. Mark Kudrowski doing exactly what he needed to do. He got out of the way of these guys and not hold himself up. He does have about 3 seconds up to Paul Lindsay ahead, so he's within striking distance. He doesn't want to give that up, but Peralty now is starting to fall a little bit back. But here we go. Through Lukey Heights again. Bradley Haley, though, much more online this time. Peralty a little bit more desperate, goes offline a little bit. So you can see just the difference in speeds with these guys and based upon their car and their driving preference right now.
That traffic hurt to freeze behind them as well. You can see the gap has increased. He got held up a little bit right when he probably wanted to involve himself in this melee. Paul Lindsay is in front of them. A little bit better horsepower there for GTLMs, and Haley closes up. I think they're going to be able to get him if he's going to give way. Yes, indeed, one does, but it compromises both cars a little bit on that line through the right-hander. In fact, it's going to be even more costly for Daniel Peralty, still stuck side by side. What was 0.2 is now over half a second.
And that's just one of those moments where if you're Paul Lindsay, you just need to back out of it because you're actually going to go slower through the corner with you two side by side right there. And so this actually held them both up and allowed Jason DeVries to get right up to the back of Gralty.
Jason DeVries smells blood in the water. This has got to be a little bit frustrating as well, Adam, because the drivers were telling me that there's not much in the way of strategy difference around here, that you can't really do much in terms of tires or trying to get sneaky on fuel. So if they're trying to make overtakes and they feel stuck, then it's, they're just going to have to gut it out, it looks like.
They are just going to have to gut it out. There's Gralty stuck on the outside through MG again, and now he's going to get really held up here because that's Shane Hunter coming across the track. DeVries is going to go up the inside and block in Gralty behind Hunter, but Hunter's got a fast Mercedes right now, so DeVries is going to be able to get by, but Gralty had a decent draft as well, so he's going to be drafting behind 2 cars. This might make him quick. He's going to look to the inside for the first corner as well. They might go 3 wide here.
Takes a little bit of a look, and nope, there's going to be a lift from Shane Hunter to let them through, and Gralty can't quite get it back. Look at that opportunistic racing for the number 89. He's got some ground to make up to our GTLM leader, but I don't know. I think Jason DeVries might actually have something for him here.
Back over in the GTDs, Joe, Ryan and Wash still under fire from Sheldon Rosenbaum. They separated for a couple of laps, but Rosenbaum is back at it through Lukey Heights. Sheldon Woloshyn off track in the background through turn number 12. They've got an HPD of Kevin O'Keefe in front of him.
Yeah, O'Keefe just had a little bit of an off. He lost his spot to Kundinger. Don't need a replay. It was a self-spin. Continue to watch this battle at the top of the GTLMs, and Sheldon Rosenbaum doing what he can to try and take maximum points here today. He's already got Santana behind him, and Santana is 1 point ahead going into today's event. So he's already got at least the points lead, it looks like. The question is, how much of a points lead could he make it? Oh, it's a little bit of an off. Coming off of the southern loop is not going to help things, but he holds the car together. Drivers are certainly pushing to the limit. We're just about to halfway, so we should see some pit stops for those who elect to split it evenly. Speaking of which, our last place driver in the HPDs is in. Sockrider takes his prototype down the lane. Not expecting tires from anybody.
Yeah, after his spin early on, it's interesting to see him do this early pit stop. So he's just going to get a little bit more fuel in there, try and get some clean track and get back out there and take care of this.
So back to that battle between DeVries and Gralty. Daniel, after being overtaken, has regrouped. He's not going to let him get away with it. DeVries has got to play rear guard more than he can attack, since Haley is still about 1.7 seconds ahead. Let's see, looks like that's Kevin Santana, 4th in the GTD class. That's just in front of him. Watch from Gralty's perspective, just over his shoulder.
All right, if I'm DeVries, I'm going to follow Santana onto the front straight, not try and pass him here, because this is the opportunity of a lifetime. You get that draft off of him, and then you could slingshot by him on the straight. That's exactly what he's going to do. Get himself as much speed as he can. This means Gralty's draft that he's getting is going to be negated by just a little bit. Gralty, let's see whether or not he's going to throw it into the corner. No, he's going to think better of it and follow him through. That's exactly the advantage DeVries needed coming onto the front stretch.
Made it perfectly. Down into the southern loop once again. He's still threatening, though. A little mistake is all he needs. A slip up, some wheel spin from DeVries, and Gralty could get his way back through traffic as well, which is what lost him the spot in the first place.
Oh, and Carter Kundinger had a major incident with Jerry Mueller about half a lap ago. He's now going to come into the pits with major suspension damage, as well as Jerry Mueller with some major damage as well. So these two guys, Jerry Mueller just missed his braking point, and you could see how much he's crabbing right there.
Yeah, this is in Honda that this happens, so probably about another 40 to 50 seconds back. Let's see.
Yeah, it was right before that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to see it here. It's just...
Oh, wow.
Jerry Mueller just missed the braking point into Honda and ended up getting into Carter really hard.
Carter is in the pits now, taking repairs. Kevin O'Keefe is taking a scheduled stop. He is in and back out. Oh, problems with Gerard. More problems with Jason Gerard. He's off in MG. Looks like he got thrown off trying to deal with traffic.
He was trying to get around Shane Hunter, the GTD driver, but this was way up on Lukey Heights.
When
A lot of off-track action here.
Yeah, an onboard with Hunter after we watch this above you would be a great one.
Yeah.
I mean, great heads up by Shane in this situation because poor Jason, he was a passenger here.
And
Yeah,
that's what
Shane Hunter and Paul Lindsay right behind him, they knew exactly what was up. They knew exactly that he was going to come right back in front of him.
Yeah, Nick, and that's one of those moments where if you're Shane Hunter, you can't actually see him when he's out there in the grass. We're going to see it on board here as the HPD goes off, and he probably doesn't even realize that he's gone, and then he sees him in his mirrors and has to hold the brakes, and here comes woof!
Interestingly enough, Shane Hunter and Paul Lindsay are actually fighting for position while that happened. Paul Lindsay was able to just get around him. That's back for fourth place in the GTD field.
Look at that pass.
This was through Siberia, I believe, or kind of at the exit of Honda.
Yeah, there it is right there. You know, and that looks like his teammate, so I believe that was coordinated. Oh, pit stops for GTLM's. Gralty abandons his battle with DeVries and comes in for his work.
And Ross Booth is in from the lead of the the HPDs, and Gerard is in as well. So that's going to be the entire HPD field having pitted.
I like that move from Daniel Geralti in the GTLM field. He knows that he's probably quicker than Jason DeVries. He knows that he might be able to jump him if he has a clean stop here, and he might have the pace back out on track. He's going to let Jason DeVries deal with any traffic he has to run into.
Billy Smith, Joe, is gone. He already took his pit stop, and he's already gone and passed Ross Booth and Jason Gerard. He is up ahead of both of them by about 10 seconds.
Checking to see if this is going to be the best finish Ross Booth has had this season. And indeed, yeah, this is only his third race so far. This will be far better than what he's had previously. Second place driver. Gerard returns in P3 about 3/4 of a lap ahead of Kevin O'Keefe. So the podium currently is just blowing away everybody else in the prototypes. Meanwhile, still waiting for a lot of our GT field to come in. Rosenbaum, though, seems to have elected to take his scheduled pit service. It's like no dramas. Back out smoothly. 22 seconds. That's actually a pretty decent pit stop time.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers, they were kind of stalled out, not quite in, very intense battles, but you see Rosenbaum take the long pit exit. A lot of these drivers were stuck in those battles where they were kind of getting held up, just not really able to find the room around someone else unless there was a mistake or traffic at play. So I think pit stops are going to be very critical for a lot of these, for the GTLMs and GTDs.
And we should see a lot of those GTD pit stops pretty soon here because they can go about 24 to 25 laps on fuel. And indeed, just as I say that, our leader in the GTDs is down pit lane. He's got quite a gap back to Santana, who's second. There's Wash. You see him on screen now, leading that field of GT3 cars. Looks for his stall, and it looks like he hits it cleanly. For comparison, our GTLM field has 27 to 28 laps of fuel. Right now, the leader is Bradley Haley, and he is on lap 26, so he's got 1 to 2 more laps to go before he cannot go any further.
Looks like Paul Lindsay is going to join him in the pits, coming in from, I guess that was third place at the time in the GTD field.
Rosenbaum's going to take that back as he goes by. since Rosenbaum has completed his pit stops. He's waiting for Wash and Santana to come in. I believe that'll bring him back to second place.
Yeah, it should.
There's Santana, who's temporarily our leader in the midst of this pit cycle. He's got a handy lead over Shane Hunter behind him of about 12 seconds. He's not under threat from anything currently. Hunter also still needs to pit.
Yeah, Nick, and I was just noticed that Ryan Wash came out and he was quite close behind Shane Hunter, so this is probably going to hold him up if he has to stay behind him for too long.
Yeah, that's big because Sheldon Rosenbaum not too far behind Ryan Wash. Rosenbaum gained a lot in the pits. GTLM leader, yeah.
He is in pit lane. Bradley Haley elects to come in, and Jason DeVries. Now, we've seen this before. DeVries liking to save fuel and try and use it to his advantage a little bit. He spent quite a while behind Gralty, did he not?
He did spend a while behind Gralty, but he also did elect to go for the pass, unlike we saw at Twin Ring Motegi. So this is going to be interesting to see whether or not DeVries can get more mileage out of it. That's how he won that last race. So Bradley Haley with a 15.4 second time in the box. He's going to get off the lane in 35.7 seconds. So that's a very quick stop for Bradley Haley, our previous leader in the GTLMs.
Peterson's going to pit behind him as Haley returns to the track. Gralty, let's see what the spacing works out to. I feel like Gralty lost out here.
Gralty did. He had a really slow outlap, Joe. His outlap was 4 seconds off pace, and that would explain why he's currently 5.5 seconds behind Bradley Haley.
I thought he was closer than that, and he was also about a little over a second slower in his pit stall. So all around, the number 47 did not enjoy that pit cycle, as it proved costly. Now, what about DeVries? Is he coming in this time? Yes, he is. Jason DeVries on into the lane. McGarvey, I expect to follow up unless he's even better at saving fuel. The answer to that is no. The 64 also in.
So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not DeVries got a good in-lap. Now, we know that Haley was a decent ways ahead of DeVries at the end of that stint, so it's not going to be that close, but if DeVries is within 2 seconds of Bradley Haley, that's a gain.
I think the big question is going to be, where does he come out of the pits in relation to Daniel Gralty? That's who he was kind of holding up after he got around him with traffic. Gralty's coming through turn 12 now.
Haley was also held up with traffic, I would like to note, and actually it's going to be close between himself and DeVries. He's got the speed, but DeVries has the track position, and I think he's got the lead now.
A 2 second shorter stop means 2 seconds shorter on the lane, and that puts Jason DeVries up ahead of Bradley Haley, but it's very close. This is going to be a fight to the end now.
Traffic in front of him. That's the leader in the GTDs. He immediately pulls off to show his intentions, staying off the left side of the track. He wants this win just as much as Ryan Wash. Oh, way too deep into the corners. And that is going to be the lead, slipping through the grasp of Deep Freeze. The 89, in fact, is going to lose second as Gralty goes by.
That unfortunately is going to end DeVries' challenge. Gralty's going to have to be the one to challenge Haley. Look at that, DeVries, just cold tires after that pit stop. Even though he didn't take tires himself, the front tires just getting too cold, locking up into the corner. And it's heartbreaking for DeVries.
It really is. Thought that we were going to get a good battle there up at the very front, but it was not meant to be today. Looks like our pit stops have all cycled through except for what I believe is Christopher Sherburne, but he's down in the GTDs. We'll take a while before we get to him. Let's check and run through our top 5 in each of the classes here. Starting with Billy Smith. He inherited the lead from a mistake from Jason. As in the background there, I think we had Robert Kanchanoff. Don't need to go to that. And Billy Smith, since then, has not relinquished it other than through the pit cycle. He is currently 13 seconds ahead of Ross Booth, who is looking at his best finish of the season, his 3rd start of the season, so a bit of a late start here for the 03. But the Pikachu machine is looking like he should have a good one on his hands if he can just bring it home. He is being chased down, though. He could have to play defense from Jason Girard, who sits in third currently, recovering multiple mistakes today. This has been an unusual season for the O2, and really unlike what we usually see from him in terms of performance. Kevin O'Keefe sits in fourth and could bring himself home as well. A pretty good finish for him. Inherited some from drivers ahead having problems, but you got to take what you can get. And then the top five rounded out by Stephen McGarvey. Started in third, looked like he could be good today as he locks it up down into Honda. And I think that tells the tale right there of why we're not seeing the 09 higher up in the field. What
Joe,
about
I hate to interrupt you, but Daniel Gralty actually just spun. Speaking of the GTLMs.
Ooh, you are right. Let's take a look at the replay before we go through that rundown. And this was a scary one for Wash, our leader in the GT.
He was trying to get around Wash, our GTD leader.
Yeah, he gets it upset going over Lukey Heights and just can't get onto the brakes evenly through MG, and that ends up spinning him. You're going to see it right here. He tries to get down to the inside, and the car just gets upset, locks up those front tires, then locks up the rear right coming down the hill. That ends up spinning him, and it takes him a while to get going. He's now down in fourth, and a good 12 seconds off the lead now.
Well, that changes the shape of things once again, and naturally, DeVries re-inherits second place. Scott McGarvey, the brother to Steven, is now up on the podium here in the GTLMs as well. But a bit of a quiet race for the 64. Let's almost started in through the rundown for you there, Adam. Why don't you give us an update here on the GTLM top five?
Absolutely, Joe. Bradley Haley with a decent pit stop, 15.4 seconds, currently leads this race. He lost out in the pit stop to Jason DeVries, who had the lead coming back out of the pits, but then Jason ended up locking up. So Bradley Haley with a good run right now, with Jason DeVries having struggled a little bit. He's even falling further back now as he's in that second position trying to get past the 7 car. That is of Sean Reese in the 10th position in GTDs. Then we have Scott McGarvey, who he has just been running a very quiet race. And as I talk about Scott, Daniel Grell
got another spin, and he has gone off. That's going to give fourth to Leaf Peterson here, Adam.
Yeah, so let's talk about Leaf. Leaf has been doing a good job today. He's been fairly aggressive on his passes. He's moved up a couple of positions, and Leaf Peterson now in that fourth position, doing an excellent job this race, just running a very consistent race. Whereas the man in fifth place, Daniel Gralty, let's just say he's struggling on this second stint. Those tires are not treating him nice, and after a couple of lockups, it's going to be recovery mode all the way home today for him.
And then finally, we've got the GTD class, where that's been close up at the front, but it doesn't look like it stayed that way, Nick.
Not too much. Ryan Wash, of course, he did have that scare we just saw with Daniel Gralty, but he's been able to pull a gap once again. Sheldon Rosenbaum just tied up in too much traffic. Now he's all out there by himself in second place in the GTDs, but quite a ways back. But the big story in GTD right now is this battle for third place. Tim McLeish, who started in 8th place, he's actually just getting overtaken by Kevin Santana. Santana got jumped in the pits by the 95 of McLeish. He's able to take it back there.
Good stuff here. And that's just ahead of Antilli, who's, well, I shouldn't say just ahead. It's about 11 seconds back between them. McLeish and Santana. Santana at least back up onto the podium. We're going to get some traffic weaving through. That's actually our leader in the prototypes.
I think Santana's got the pace. He seems to be pulling away quite a bit on McLeish in the GTDs.
And McLeish blinked out for me for a little bit there. I think he's having some connection issues still. I believe we saw that earlier. 14 minutes left to go. There's still plenty of racing, and we always say it every time, and every time it comes true. If you think it's calming down, wait for the last few minutes of this series. Something always seems to happen, and things just erupt. Let's take a glance at that leader. Billy Smith in the prototypes. He sits third in the championship points and only 9 points behind Miguel Vigo. 8 points behind Jason Girard. Currently, he leads both those drivers. I'm not sure if he's going to take the lead away. I need to check to see what he'll get in terms of points for this win compared to them.
Yeah, Billy just running a really consistent race, been safe with traffic all day, as you can see there, just being very cautious getting around the 47 of Daniel Gralty. And yeah, Bradley Haley just being, Billy Smith rather, just being one of those stout drivers, just he has the raw pace, so he can afford to be a little cautious. And with his 0.7 seconds per lap faster in qualifying, he's really extended that now out to 12 seconds ahead of Ross Booth.
Taking a look at Bradley Haley. I don't even want to mention championship stuff, but it's hard to avoid it. He's leading it right now. He's tied for it. He's going to take the lead back once again with Huff DNFing today. And he's missed out on the championship so many times. He's come so close. We're now partway through a good chunk into the season, really. And this is looking very good for him. But again, I don't want to really count on anything at this point and cross my fingers for the guy. I know we're supposed to remain impartial, but after so many close calls, eventually kind of start rooting for a driver.
Yeah, Joe, and he's actually gapping Jason still, so he could even back off to, of course, like, you want to run at your limit because that's how you know to run, and it prevents you from making mistakes. But he could even be cautious around the traffic more than he has been and continue to maintain that gap over Jason, so he doesn't have to keep pushing.
Looks like this gap up the lead of the GTDs is starting to narrow. Rosenbaum, I wonder if we could get a lap comparison between the 86 and the 113. This looks a lot closer.
Rosenbaum is a little bit quicker, actually. Yeah, about 2 or 3 seconds quicker that last lap. Ryan Wash got tied up in some major traffic, it looks like.
And even before that, look at the difference. 3 tenths,
Yeah.
almost 4 tenths on lap 28. Another 2 on lap 29. 30, not sure what happened there. Looks like there was maybe a connection issue for both the drivers and one of the drivers. But there is a definite trend going on.
And this was the same trend that we saw before they came in their pit stops. Ryan Wash just opened up that gap even more when they pitted. And but before that, Rosenbaum was indeed closing in on the 86 of Ryan Wash. So Rosenbaum, he's got the pace. He just wasn't able to capitalize on after being a little bit slower in the pits. And now he might have another opportunity, but he's going to have to hustle or hope for some more traffic because he's only got about 10 minutes left.
I'm seeing correctly, Rosenbaum took the win at Motegi. Sure, he'd love to notch another one up there as we watch the 113 give chase on Ryan Wash. He was 2 seconds slower, actually about 1.3 seconds slower than Wash in his pit stall. That explains some of the loss with the pit cycle. Still hovering at about 1.7. This is going to be Peterson. Peterson trying to find his way by, and there's a good example of what I was talking about earlier. The racing line taking the cars across the track and causing miscommunication.
And the HPD, Ross Booth comes through on the outside as well there. He'll be able to get around Peterson as well before they reach Stoner.
This is honestly one of our best battles on the track currently. And that actually got upset a little bit. It's up to 2.1 seconds. So Rosenbaum lost out trying to let that lap traffic by. Peterson doing him no favors, along with Ross Booth having to try and work his way through. The nature of multi-class racing, especially at a track like this.
We'll see if Leif Peterson getting by on Lukey Heights will hurt Ryan Wash at all. Maybe he'll have to go to the outside lane. Might not be as optimal for him. Rosenbaum is coming back quick.
He's going to hold behind patiently. Oh, but if he's trying to come back quick, he's getting interrupted because Jason Girard just sent one up the inside, and that took away any time he may have gained.
And he's got Daniel Gralty trying to find his way around him too. He will probably be able to get around him on the Gardner Straight, but look at the mess that the leader is in Ryan Wash.
Oh my goodness.
Almost 4 wide there for a moment because they had a slow lapped car, Sean Reese, along with the leader in the GTDs and Peterson trying to work through. Great to see that cool heads prevail in this situation. Rosenbaum 1.2 back.
Rosenbaum might be getting held up a little bit. Sean Reese and Daniel Gralti were side by side at the exit of the southern loop. That did not help him at all. Now it looks like he'll be all right.
And now Gralti's got to try and go by Wash. Gralti's back to 5th currently in that GTLM fight, so he hasn't gotten his position back from Peterson, but he has run him down to about 1.6 seconds. That's not over.
Gralti's going to be able to squeeze by. He's got no traffic in front of him to Peterson. Like you said, they are battling in the GTLM class. And that will leave Wash and Rosenbaum to themselves as well.
Don't need to go to it, but Sean Reese just slid off the track behind them through Lukey Heights. Didn't hit anything. Looks like he's going to be able to calmly return to racing. Reese is actually running in 10th. I don't think we mentioned that. So he's not doing too great, but he's not last in that field. So something to say for that.
Now that traffic isn't a factor between these two, I'm going to be interested to see if Sheldon can run back or can run down Ryan Wash once again. Looks like he's able to close in big time through the southern loop.
It's 1.4 seconds. That's the gap now. And less than 7 minutes to go. The car that he's battling is the one directly in front of him currently. Let's see if he can do anything into the braking of Honda. It's down to 1.3. Let's see if that stretches back out on the exit. It does not. In fact, it closes a bunch. One flat between Rosenbaum and Wash. He is in a hurry now.
Yeah, guys, I noticed that Ryan Wash had the draft of Daniel Gralti and Lee Peterson ahead of him when he was going down the straight, and Rosenbaum did not have any drafts, so that's probably what led to the gap being pulled out by about half a second just on that straight there. But Rosenbaum looking really quick through the corners here, guys.
Yeah, even when that gap was pulled out, like you said, Adam, I looked, Rosenbaum was 1/10 of a second quicker still than Ryan Wash on that entire lap.
Lost a little time here through the last part of the lap. 1.2, 1.3 now. So I wonder if there's different setups going on as they come onto the main straight. 1.4. Maybe it'll close down for Sheldon Rosenbaum as he starts to pick up speed. 165 miles an hour before he swings it into doing. That looks like that's going to stay put at 1.4. Now down to 1.2. So a tiny gain there in this first part of the lap. I'm looking through the field and I almost wonder if, because we had a smaller than somewhat usual field here, 30 cars lined up to race today, if that's sort of abated some of the chaos we were expecting. Only 4 DNFs, Kundinger, Huff, Major, and Carbonneau are the only ones that are out today.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, Joe, I'm pretty sure that it's the smallness of the HPD field that's actually causing this. We're taking a look right now of a battle between Mark Wilson and Vance Bow. This just started to crack off this lap. But the HPD field was only 8 cars to start with, and they're down to 6. And that usually is what causes the chaos around here with the GT cars. There are enough GT cars to cause chaos, but they just don't find each other that often, whereas the HPDs cut through much quicker.
That's a good point. They tend to barge in a little bit unexpected sometimes, just with their extra speed. But this battle looking very good currently. Try and settle out that 6th spot. Bow coming onto the main straight, but he's going to give a nice tow to the BMW of Mark Wilson. The 323 got anything? Is that Ferrari going to be quick enough in a straight line that he can't go on the attack? And it looks like they're going to run out of straightaway into doing. So for now, Mark Wilson's got to stay patient.
Yeah, Mark's got to set him up here and try and figure out a good place to sneak by. Maybe force Vance Bow into getting a little bit aggressive. You can see Vance, the rear end coming out just a little bit on that car as they go over the hill here, but Mark Wilson is definitely close enough. He just needs to pressure Vance Bow and hope that Vance takes the braking zone a little bit too late into one of these hairpins and goes wide.
Ooh, and he's going to try and send it in deep. He's given space at the apex here at Honda. Bow's not going to try and chop him off, but that was a brave move, and another very brave move. Wilson knows that it's late in the race, and this is a driver that is not going to sit around for anything.
Interesting decision to try and switch it back there, but Mark Wilson just trying some different moves here to try and make Vance Bow make a mistake. Here we go over Lukey Heist. This is a great opportunity if someone's pushing a little bit too hard for somebody to go off track. Mark Wilson a little bit of a shallow apex there, which meant he had to back it off coming through the corner. So now through MG, looks like Vance got a really good exit. Mark Wilson, though, a different line. He's going to have some decent speed coming onto the front stretch, but once again, Joe, I think he's too far back.
Yeah, I agree. This doesn't really look like it's going to go in favor of the 90. Even if he does start to gain a bunch here on the front stretch, I'd be amazed if he catches him and passes him. So as they swing down to Doohan again, it's going to stay put with Bow in 6th and Wilson in 7th. Oh, once again, that brake bias must be cranked way up for Mark Wilson.
Yeah, Mark's got it really cranked. He's definitely on the back of Vance now. I'm sure he's going to try something here. Unless Vance covers it off on the inside, looks like he's going to. But is Vance going to brake early enough? He brakes later than Mark Wilson. Oh, he can't quite do it, though.
Just isn't there, unfortunately. I mentioned that Gralty was trying to catch Peterson to get a spot back. Well, he's done one half of that equation.
And it's close for sure. Nick, you've been looking at this.
Yeah, Peterson, he is really having to hold off some charges from Daniel Gralty. He's taking some different lines, and that's really throwing off the defensive Leaf Peterson. Doesn't really know what to do out there, and look at this slipstream that Daniel Gralty's gonna have on the front stretch. He's almost able to pass him before they even get to the Gardner Straight. He might even have him at the line. I think he will.
Almost looked like Peterson was a little bit wide on the entry into Swan, but he's going to hold next to him. Is he going to fight him for it? No. He backs out of it by the time they hit Doohan. He's just going to settle for that 5th position. Gralty gets one of them back with about a 15.5-second gap up to McGarvey. That's about all he's going to get unless we get drama from the leaders. 1 minute left to go. Just as our leader crosses the line, Billy Smith takes the white flag. And I think this will be a feel-good win for him.
Yeah, all he has to do is be super consistent on this lap. He's going to have at least Chris Sherburne to try and pass, if not Stephen McGarvey on this lap. So he just needs to be very calm approaching these guys.
So Bradley now coming to the line. 6.8 seconds. The mistake from DeVries is really, I think, what sealed it up for Haley. He could have maybe taken a win without it, but it would have been a hard-fought fight as he comes into Doohan. Wash is not out of the woods, but he's gapped Rosenbaum by a decent amount.
Yeah, Rosenbaum's been caught up in some traffic.
Billy Smith is just finishing the final lap now. A back-to-back pair of wins in Australia. Billy Smith has shown the Aussie grit. First one was at Bathurst, and now we hop over here to Phillip Island where he takes the win in round 8 today.
It's a fantastic, consistent drive from him. He had the raw pace. He just needed to navigate the traffic, and he did so with great skill today.
Wash is going to be the last one around as he was just ahead of him. And Bradley Haley looking for win number 3 here. He comes out of MG and up to Swan Corner. I thought that Jason DeVries was going to have something for him, but it was his own mistakes that did him in. The 428 retakes the championship lead with this victory here today at Phillip Island.
And we just had a pass between Mark Wilson and Vance Bow, and they were just getting by Ryan Wash, who's on his final lap. You're going to see him in the background there. But Mark Wilson and Vance Bow ducked it down to the inside of Honda, and Vance outbraked himself, and that was the opportunity.
So As we mentioned with Wash back there, he's going to have to be careful making sure that he doesn't get tangled up. Granted, I guess he can't be overtaken. He's got the guaranteed victory since, as a little wide goes Vance Bow. That'll end that battle between the two of them. Ryan Wash, he's not the leader in the points down in those GTDs, but he could be eventually here because he's done better than Santana and Rosenbaum and in Tilly. Ryan Wash, your winner in the GTD class. As he takes it slowly to the line. He's going to savor this one.
Right behind him, Sheldon Rosenbaum not able to put up a fight. Rosenbaum actually coming to the pits. I think he might be a little bit low on fuel.
No, Rosenbaum already finished.
Oh, he did.
Later, yeah. we had Billy Smith go by him on the last lap and deny him the chance to battle for the lead. That's going to take us to a quick break, though. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you watch on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Phillip Island. Round 8 with the sun setting provided us with some great racing here in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Billy Smith, though, took his second win in a row from the front row where he was in a tremendous qualifying battle initially. And then it wasn't even race pace that determined things. It was consistency that allowed him to win today. Ross Booth with his best finish yet this season from 4th to 2nd. And Jason Girard on the pole, but got to be kicking himself for mistakes, sitting him backwards. He was able to recover to a podium finish at the least, but championship could be under threat if he keeps doing that. Kevin O'Keefe with a 4th place finish as he also had some mistakes today, but it seems like others had worse. Stephen McGarvey, one of those, going from 3rd to 5th here and throwing away what could have been a podium. David Sockrider was the last of the drivers to be able to finish in the prototype field, 6th. Only 8 drivers started in this class today.
Bradley Haley took home the win today in the GT11 class, with Jason DeVries coming home in 2nd, just missing out to Bradley Haley due to overshooting Honda corner. Scott McGarvey's going to come home in 3rd, just with a very consistent drive today, slotting home that final step on the podium, with Daniel Grelty being able to recover to 4th after making his own mistake going through MG and having to recover. Lee Peterson comes home in 5th after a consistent drive where his tires just fell off a little bit, with Mark Wilson coming home in 6th, passing Vance Bow on the final lap. with Robert Canchin coming home in the 8th position, and Ryan Huff, our 5th place driver in the points, did not finish this race.
Back in the GTD class, Ryan Wash, like you just saw on the last lap, got the win. He is going to finish a whole lap on the timing and scoring in front of Sheldon Rosenbaum, Kevin Santana, Tim McLeish, who had a good pit stop, but he wasn't able to capitalize on that position. He'll finish 4th, and Eric Antilli, who was able to move himself up into 5th. Paul Lindsay, who had a very eventful night, he'll finish in 6th, right in front of Shane Hunter, another driver with an eventful night. Mark Kedrowski, Chris Sherburne, and Sean Reese will be right behind him. Then Sheldon Woloshin and Jerry Mueller will finish together on about 1 lap down, it looks like. And the DNFs are going to go to Carter Kundinger in the HPD field, Ryan Huff, Mike Major, and Luke Carbonneau. That's your 30 driver rundown.
We've got our winner overall ready to talk to us. Billy Smith apparently likes these Australian tracks, back-to-back wins. Tell me, though, what was the conditions like? Because we saw so many spins out there today. It almost looked like there was something on the track. Billy, do you have a copy?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the track was a little bit dusty. I mean, I honestly think I only witnessed maybe 2 spins myself. Of course, one of those being Gerard. It seemed like a few places, especially if you got offline, were pretty slick for sure.
Now, once you saw Jason go off, did you feel pretty confident about the win, or were you still kind of worried? Because it seemed like you two had incredible pace in qualifying compared to the rest of the field.
Yeah, obviously Jason's always a really tough competitor, and when he made that mistake, he was swerving in the front straightaway, and so I thought it was kind of funny that he spun out in turn 1 there. But yeah, after he did that, I kind of backed it down, and it definitely took the pressure off. But knowing Jason, I wasn't going to let down too much because he's obviously extremely fast, and I didn't know if he was just going to pull something out there and run me back down.
Well, we'll have to see if this trend continues because we're going from down under, where you seem to thrive, to the top of the world, going up to Canada for most sports. Do you think you can make it a three-peat?
I don't know. Well, I'll try. I really like the way this car drives now. I seem to be able to have a good grasp of how to set the car up. So hopefully it'll be another good one.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing how you fare out there. Again, congratulations on the back-to-back wins.
Thank you. You guys stay safe.
That was Billy Smith, winner here today. And then up next, I believe Adam has caught up with our winner in the GTLMs, Bradley Haley.
Yeah, Bradley, excellent drive today. But talk to me about after that pit cycle where you see Jason DeVries come out ahead of you and then going into Hana Corner, seeing him come off. What was the emotional ride like that lap?
I kind of had a feeling he was saving. And of course, I see him. I'm like, oh man, because I saw what he did at Bathurst, and or no, it was Motegi. When I got taken out, I think he did it on 1 stop. So he's definitely got the fuel saving tactic down. And at that point, I was like, okay, race on. And then the tires, I mean, you come out, you got to be real gentle with them, getting back up to temperature, and it looked like he got on the marbles and slid right through the corner.
Yeah, quite a few drivers going off at Honda at that point. But with that in mind, going into next round at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, how are you going to handle a driver that saves fuel that efficiently and can possibly come out ahead of you in that race as well?
I'm gonna have to go back to school, figure out setup, lift and coast. This race, I had a really fast setup, but it really ate the right rear. So I was real tentative the first few laps, and then kind of midway through, Daniel had great pace, and they kept closing in on me. So yeah, from Ossport, I'm just gonna have to figure out the setup, and then obviously back to school on lifting and coasting.
Well, a fantastic drive from you today. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, the family, the kids are home, so this is nice to get an hour or so up in my little office here, and obviously all the healthcare workers and you guys for putting this on. This is something we look forward to every other Monday. So thanks to you guys.
All right, that was Bradley Haley, our winner in the GTLM class, and it looks like Nick Schmeg has Ryan Wash.
I do indeed. Ryan Wash, our winner over in the GTD field. The momentum from a good race at Bathurst a couple weeks ago has certainly translated into a win here at Phillip Island.
I wanted to say momentum. That was just sheer luck. I was not ready for that race, and that's Bathurst, and I'm just glad that concrete wall didn't want to kiss me.
So was it luck today as well, or did you feel a lot more prepared for this? Certainly, starting from the pole, I don't know if that's too much luck.
Well, definitely some luck. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I had an off track there with about 15 minutes left, and luckily I got lucky because it was in turn 2, and usually when you get off there, you just shoot out to the wall and you're done. But I got lucky and just kind of stayed there and was able to get it back on with only losing about 4 seconds. So a little bit of luck, but also Phillip Island's one of my favorite tracks. And then I'm still getting used to this tire model. I mean, that's only my 3rd race in this car on that tire model, so it definitely was a little difficult at the end of the race there. So.
Wow, very impressive. But we did. I don't know if we caught the off track specifically. We did see Sheldon close in on your lead significantly at the end. Were you noticing that as well? That it looked like he might be able to catch you if a little bit more traffic got in your way.
Yeah, that was where that off track happened. So I think when I went off, I was about 7 seconds ahead of him, and then when I came back on, I was about 1.6. Then he closed it even more, and then I got lucky with traffic this week, and it kind of just played in my hands, and he dropped back a little bit, so I was able to just relax and let it roll out to the end.
Yeah, it certainly explains the success you had in the last 5 or 6 minutes. But I'm sure you're, obviously pretty pleased with your win here today. It was fun to watch the whole race, but especially your victory in the GTD field. Before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Oh yeah, I want to thank SRN firstly. They didn't even know who I was before the season started. They just saw me on a list and they took a chance, and I'm glad they did because I've been having a lot of fun with them. And then also I want to thank my personal sponsor at 4to-Go. So if you're into fantasy or like DraftKings or stuff like that for Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and golf, you can get weekly predictions from at IV_TOGO on Twitter. 4to-Go, you'll see Ivan and his link to sign up for his emails right there. He's fantastic.
All right. Well, Ryan, nice to see you in the booth. Hopefully we get to talk to you more later this season.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Some interesting interviews tonight, and we got to talk to all of our winners, thankfully. We don't always get that pleasure, and we love getting to hear how they felt about things. But we're going to close things out with a quick thank you to the Autobahn series for bringing us back for another season of coverage. But also, we want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Adam, Nick, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media, where we've got our Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, make sure and check out our merch store. The link is in the description below, where it says gsrc.storenv.com. And while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to the channel by clicking the big red subscribe button. The next race in 2 weeks' time is going to be back up to Canada, Mosport, from Monday, May 4th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. That could be a little bit tricky for our drivers. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.